in terms of Anthony Edwards, it's making his mark as potentially the best player in the NBA and helping make his mark as an all-time great, especially if he gets a ring before 25. And then in terms of Jalen Brunson, if he takes the Knicks to the NBA Finals, he's easily a top 4 Knick all-time. And if he helps them win the NBA Finals, I could argue he's a top 3 Knick all-time, right next to Bernard King and Patrick Ewing, or potentially Clyde Frazier, Patrick Ewing, and you bump Bernard King out of that conversation. What are your thoughts on that?
I can tell you, if he wins an NBA championship, listen, I'm a guy that grew up with Patrick Ewing. This is going to be horrible for any old guys that listen to your podcast. Patrick Ewing wasn't that good. Bernard King, loved him, never won a championship. You could make an argument that Clyde Frazier, right? You can make an argument, but I can tell you right now, if he wins an NBA championship, he is easily your number 1 Knick all time. And you can make an argument. I was actually listening to some New York sports talk today. You can make an argument he takes the throne above Mark Messier as the greatest winner in New York across all sports.
Yeah, I mean, there's unremarkable impacts that he has brought to the Knicks. I mean, you had everybody saying he was an overpay, Stephen A. Smith, literally everybody, the entire league. It was a bust. It's not going to do anything for you. He comes in, and I forget the stat, but I think they've won like 21 playoff series or games in the last 3 years. I think games, and they had like 20 in the 20 years before that. It was something like that. But the impact he's had on the Knicks and this city, if he brings them a chip or even brings them to the NBA Finals, he's made his mark as maybe the winningest New Yorker, obviously wins a chip of all time. I mean, it's absolutely incredible what he's done for this city. And, one thing I also want to ask you about, Tom Thibodeau was just on the hot seat, right? Heading into the Celtics series, we barely beat the Pistons. We had a bumpy regular season, running his players out of the building. That's what this narrative was. He goes up 3-1 against the healthy Celtics, right? Because Tatum went down. We beat him 3-1 with Tatum there. And now Tom Thibodeau reaches his first Eastern Conference Finals. What is the impact for Tom Thibodeau if he even gets this team to the NBA Finals and his legacy and his career?
Monstrous. Legitimizes himself as being a good defensive coach and a good assistant coach back in the day to very good to great head coach. Legitimizes himself, 100%. I don't think he's respected that much right now. Listen, he has his quirks. Have I had that discussion? Gun to your head, would you rather have Malone from Denver or Thibodeau coaching the team next year? Interesting question. Would you rather have the guy that they just fired from, what's his name? From
the Grizzlies.
No, the guy they just fired from Phoenix that used to coach Milwaukee. What's his name? Budenholzer, great coach. Won a championship at Milwaukee. Would I take him over Thibodeau? Probably. I do think Thibodeau is a good coach. I think the best thing about Thibodeau is he deals with the New York shit. Pardon my French. New York's not an easy place to coach. I think he does that very well. Is he too tight on his rotation? I mean, that's an old school. The school he comes from, right? He comes from the Jeff Van Gundy, shorten your bench. And Pat Riley used to have a saying, in the playoffs, you only play players you trust. That's it.
Yeah, completely right. Spot on. I mean, there's a reason he's going 7. Barely puts Campaign in the game, who's absolutely atrocious. Can't hit a 3 for his life, and that's the only thing he's meant to do. And Precious, I mean, I want to see more Precious, but he doesn't really play Precious whatsoever. He's really not that much of an impact. Ultimately, you're right. It legitimizes him. And look, I would rather have Malone from Denver. I'd rather have a bunch of coaches. But right now, he's getting the job done. He deals with the media. He deals with the beat reporters. And he's getting you to where you want to be. He just upset the defending champs. That was absolutely absurd. Yeah, you could talk about how it's on the Knicks players coming back, but a lot of that has to do with Tom Thibodeau, and he's done an excellent job this offseason. I still think the Knicks... Yeah, I mean, I still think we're a move away. I don't think we're going to win the NBA Finals. I think the Thunder would absolutely decimate us. I think that we're way too reliant on our top, and I think ultimately you got to make a move this offseason. And there's a real question to be had whether you want to insert Mitchell Robinson into the starting 5. We see so many times Cat has his second or third foul early in the second quarter. He has to go to the bench. They just attack Brunson and Cat. And that was a big weak point for the New York Knicks. them just being absolutely horrible defensively. Jalen Brunson stepped it up against Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum, but I definitely think it's a weak point. So you're either moving Mitch into the starting five and putting Hart to the bench, or you're making a move this offseason that could potentially circle around Cat in a trade for someone like maybe AD and Gafford. What are your thoughts on the Knicks maybe making one more critique to the roster to really solidifying themselves as an NBA contender for the championship?
There you go. I don't think they're going to move AD because now that they got Cooper Flag, I think they're going to build around those guys. The guy that's on the block that I'd love to see, I would probably move Cat and OG for Giannis straight up on a sign and trade. You heard me.
Yeah,
and I'll be honest, I love OG at $36 million a year. He's overpaid. Cat's at $48 million a year. He's got a lot of money behind him. I love OG. OG's being paid right now like a superstar. He's not a superstar. He's a good player. I like him. He's a good player. I would cut those two. I would bring in Giannis. That means your starting five is Giannis. You're going to have to get us power forward in there. Power forward, small forward. Who else could you put on the wing? Well, you could go small. You could go Giannis, Bridges, Hart. You're gonna have to get somebody else in there.
You could throw in Mitch at the 5.
You could, but now you're super big. Then you could get balls. You could let Bridges go, because OG is a more natural fun, and then go with Giannis, OG, another wing, Hart. But then you're losing the shooting. But I would probably try to make a move for Giannis because I think he's a difference maker. I saw some stat that said that there's only one guy that's giving you 30, 10, and 5, and it's him the last 2 years. So he's still putting up monster numbers. And I think as a Knicks fan, we would agree he's 10 times the player Cat is.
10 times. 10 times the player Cat is. The problem with Cat, he's too hot and cold. You look at him, he could be the best player in the playoffs one night. Shoot 50% from the 3, dominate in the paint, and be absolutely absurd on the rebounds. And then obviously be okay defensively, but not get in the foul trouble. And then some nights he gives you 10 points. He's out by the end of the third quarter. He has 5 fouls. He's absolutely a joke defensively. And when you're trying to win a championship, you're going up against the Thunder, the Timberwolves, the Pacers, the best of the best teams, you can't have that inconsistency. You just can't have that inconsistently. So even from series to series, last year he shut down Jokic. They were great, and they were booted against the Mavericks. He's got to be more consistent, so I would give him up. OG, if you have to throw McBride, or even if it's him, Bridges, and McBride, I would get rid of him for Giannis in a heartbeat because I don't think anybody could stop Giannis and Brunson. And then even if you have OG and Mikal as your third option, I think that's lethal. Honest, I think
maybe you go back and pick up DiVincenzo again. He's a nice on the outside, cheap. But I like that. I mean, then you take care of Giannis is a great defensive player, and Cat's a shitty defensive player. So all of a sudden, you don't have that big man, weak defensive player weakness. And you're right. I mean, the problem with Cat is unless you run the offense through him, he disappears. And you're never going to get the offense to run through him because the offense runs through Brunson.
It's true. I mean, so many times in the series, he's setting screens, right? He's a low ball man, maybe catch and shoot 3. And I was blaming Tom Thibodeau a lot for that against the Pistons. But then I realized that, no, Jalen Brunson's your number one option. You're going to run through Brunson because Brunson's the clutch player of the year. When he's hot, nobody can guard him, and he's more of a threat than Cat, and that's the fact. Especially in late game situations when you have to win, you're not going to give the ball to Cat. You're going to give it to Brunson.
And I don't want to make this a beat on Cat session, but Cat got lucky last series because he basically had who was covered him? Porzingis, who's shot, or Horford, who's 40 years old. Now you saw when a real player covered him, Jason Duran with Detroit, gave him all types of problems. And I can tell you right now, if you play the West Coast, you're going to run into guys like Joker. Joker will put up 40 and 20 on Cat every night. Gobert will dominate him, right? I mean, the big West Coast centers will dominate Cat.
Dominate him. He's no match. You're going to put Gobert on him. You go to the Thunder, put Chet, you'll put Hartenstein on him. They'll manhandle him, and he's just not consistent enough for me. Your thoughts, though. What team is closer to winning the chip, roster-wise? The Indiana Pacers or the New York Knicks? Completely on the roster.
Both have holes. I say the Knicks just because they have more firepower. I think they have more high-end players. But then again, the freaking Pacers are deep. So they're going to try to play the deep game on you and wear you down. I'm trying to think of a team recently that was like the Spurs. Or like the Indiana. Maybe the old Spurs. That's what I was saying.
Yeah.
That's what I shot. The old Spurs used to be a deep team behind the big three. They'd wear you down. Maybe the old Miami teams are fairly deep. They'd wear you down. But I do think the Knicks are more ready. I mean, they have the point guard. I do think Brunson's better than Halliburton. They've got a big man. Like, they have all the pieces, right? It's just like your only problem is we're weak defensively in a couple key areas, right? And that's what everybody talks about, right? Our two big players, Brunson and Cat, are weak defensively. And I think what teams like, if I am Indiana, just like Boston should have done more. But Boston, let's take a step back with Boston. Zulo's not a good coach, and they shot themselves out of that series. Because you know how you beat the Knicks. How you beat the Knicks is you hunt Brunson and Cat on defense and just have players go at those guys.
That's it.
That's what you do. That's the Knick recipe of beating the Knicks. They'll either foul out or they'll give up a ton of points, right? They can't play D. So I think that's what the Pacers are going to do. I think you're going to see a big series out of Miles Turner and Siakam. They're going to go at Cat, and I think Halliburton's going to go after Brunson.
Yeah, 100%. And someone who I want to bring to the table, Aaron Nesmith for the Indiana Pacers. He's averaging 15 points per game. He has been a complete X factor defensively and offensively, and likely because they tried to put Nembhard on Brunson last year in the playoffs, but he couldn't guard him. So I think you might see Nesmith go on Brunson, and that could be a big thing because Nesmith is big, he's physical, and you know how the Pacers play. They're the number one pace in the NBA, and what they'll do is they'll lock Brunson up from half court, from full court. They'll run with him the whole way. Now, if this series goes to 6 or 7, and with Brunson's ankles, that could be a big wear and tear on Jalen Brunson, which is why I think it's so important that the Knicks go up 3-1 in the series.
Dude, remember last year?
Yeah.
They also have TJ McConnell, who's a nasty little shyster and plays Brunson great. No, they're going to come at Brunson. I agree. I love that call. Yeah. Nesmith, he's tough because it's interesting. Like, our wing guys are good defenders, but they're not tough defenders. They're not big defenders. OG's got some size, but Mikhail's skinny. Naismith is tough, dude. And they also got that guy Mathurian on the bench who could pop up points. He pops up points. He's big. He's nasty. Gets in fights. So, yeah, it's going to be tough. Like, I think this is another series where you're going to have to get something out of Bridges. You're going to have to get something out of OG.
You're going to have to because, and that's not even mentioning guys like Ben Shepherd, he can hit the threes off the bench. Obi Toppin, former Knick, guy who can bring energy.
You just talked about your worst nightmare. Your worst nightmare. Your worst nightmare is Toppin comes and has a big series. That's your worst nightmare.
That's it. Because we know Toppin. Toppin can give you a couple threes. He can make some alley-oop dunks, averaging 10 points, 4 rebounds. He's a guy who can be an X factor off the bench for the Pacers. He can swing a game, especially Indiana's home crowd. They go crazy there. Their bench and Obi Toppin and that guy Benedict Mathurin, the fights they get into and the swing they can have.
And again, man, I'm nervous because I do feel like we had it kind of an easy. I mean, Detroit was a tough series, and you saw kind of how we had to scrap. But I'm telling you, dude, I do not like Boston. I think Mazzulo sucks as a coach. I look at that series and say, all right, if I put Carlisle on the Celtics, would we have made it through that series? Not a chance.
Hell no. No.
Not a chance. Dude, the fact that this guy was firing threes up at us and didn't drive the ball to the basket on our weak interior defense was bad coaching. Bad coaching.
100%. And you know Mazzulo, he's all about the numbers, all about the analytics. He's the guy who's going to say, all right, it worked for us in the regular season, but the problem with their method is, potentially it can work over a big sample size. If you're going to shoot 60 threes per game and you're going to drain 20, you're going to drain 25, over the season it might work. But with a small sample size up against a singular team, especially with the physicality, that's not going to work. And they wouldn't switch it. You heard him in the press conference. You heard Jaylen Brown. They said, we're going to stick to our process. They stuck to their process, and it failed them, and it cost them that series against the Knicks. So 100%, you're right. The Knicks have had the easier route. You got to remember, the Pistons didn't even have Isaiah Stewart.
Nope.
They didn't even have Isaiah Stewart. That's another big man that could help shut Cat down. No Isaiah Stewart. They're very young, very inexperienced. Ultimately, the Celtics were injured. Porzingis was practically injured. And obviously, Jason Tatum did go down, although we did go 3-1 with them. So we had the easier series, and that's that. The Pacers are not going to be an easy team. Not at all.
Not at all. Not at all. And they have a lot of history with us, right? And
lot.
we're already talking smack. You already saw that one kid got beaten up outside the Knick game with the Indiana Pacers jersey.
Yeah.
Halliburton already invited them to the game. So that's all.